cold here in South Carolina, so tonight, this afternoon, we are going to make some vegetable soup. And then we're gonna make some cornbread in a minute and fry some chicken strips. So we're gonna have another one of those little mini meals. So this is the way that I make my vegetable soup. So it's very simple. All right, we're gonna start out. This is something called vegetable gumbo mix. Now, you can buy it in almost any grocery store. I use the brand from Ingles simply because that's where I buy a lot of my groceries. And so it's just easy to pick it up there, and actually their brand is just as good as any. So I'm gonna show you, we're gonna start out with what probably would be what you would cook maybe for a family of, say, 4 to 6 people. Now this is a can of crushed tomatoes. So we're going to open that and get that poured in there. That's a big old pot, isn't it? But you know, when you feed 10 to 12 people, you need a big pot. Okay, so we're going to pour that in there, and then what I do is I fill that about halfway with water, and then pour that in there too, and then a can of petite diced tomatoes. Okay, we're going to add that. Now I'm going to turn this on high. All right, and we're going to add 1 can of Campbell's beef broth. You don't have to cut that all the way off because that will just pour out. Okay. Now, the good thing about this soup is you can kind of adjust it to the amount of people that you are serving. And so that would be kind of your basic recipe, say for 4 to 6 people. But I'm having more than that. So I am going to add 2 more packages of vegetables. One more can of crushed tomatoes. Okay, I'm going to put water in that can. Another can of petite diced tomatoes. See, that pot's getting pretty full. Another can of beef broth. Okay, it will take just a few minutes for this to start getting warm. So if you'll see in there, you've got okra, corn, green beans. Of course, we've got tomatoes in there. There's some celery in it. So pretty much all the vegetables that you would put in vegetable soup, except you don't have to cut all those up. So we're going to let this come to a good boil, and then when it does, we'll be back and we're going to mix some cornbread. Okay, I looked in this. I don't see quite enough onion. So this is onion that's already diced. So I'm going to use about half of that because that will help with the flavor. And then while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and put some salt in here. Now sometimes you have to have a good bit of salt because of the tomatoes. They kind of taste flat if you don't. So what we'll do, we'll let this come to a boil, and when it does, then when it gets good and hot, we're going to taste it and see if it needs any more salt. If it does, we'll add it. It's easier to add it because once it's in there, you're just stuck. So we're going to leave it just like that. We'll be back in just a minute. Now we're going to make some cornbread. And I'm making right off the recipe, right on the back of the bag. And this is Martha White yellow cornmeal mix hot rise. I like it because it always fluffs up really good. So I added just a little bit to the general recipe because I want a big pan of cornbread. All right, so we're going to start here with 3 eggs. And what you do is you just crack them, put them in there. And when it says to add beaten eggs, this would be what you call a beaten egg. Okay, now it calls for the cornmeal, all-purpose flour, put that in there. And then what I just use my whisk to kind of blend those together. Okay, now this calls for a cup of milk, which I told you I've added just a little bit more than a regular recipe. So I'm going to put 1.5 cups of milk, which should be plenty. All right, and that's just regular whole milk. I don't use 2%, but that's just me, okay? Pour that in there. Start stirring it around. You can use your mixer, your hand mixer with this if you want to. I just find out it's just as easy just to mix it with a fork, and it's not that hard to get these ingredients together. So now, we're not going to do this tonight, but I'm going to tell you. There's something in the South that we call cracklings. And that's little teeny pieces of streak of fat, which is kind of like fatback. And a lot of times, the old-timey people love the cracklings in the cornbread. Now, I love it too, but I don't put cracklings in my cornbread when I'm having soup. If I'm just using cornbread just as a bread for the night, then I could put cracklings in it. But right now, we're not going to put cracklings in it. Okay, let's see what else our recipe calls for. All right. Oh, it calls for 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. So let me get my oil here. As y'all can see, this is my apron. I declare I'm going to trained myself to wear an apron because everything I have always ends up with these little spots in the middle. All right, let me read that again. Oh, it says 1/4 of a cup. All right, so I don't want quite that much. I want about 3/4 of a cup because that's what we increased our recipe. Okay, now there's controversy about this, but I'm gonna tell you, I love sugar in my cornbread. Now, it doesn't make it real sweet, but it's just something about it that I like, and so this calls for 1/4 of a cup. So we guesstimating that. As you can see, that's not a whole lot of sugar for that much cornbread. So it's not gonna make it sweet like a cake. It's just gonna make it taste good. So, all right now. That's it. We've got all the ingredients. So now, what we're gonna do is, now you can make this in iron skillet if you want to, but then it's just as good in a glass casserole. So spray that good so that it doesn't stick, and that's Pam for bacon. So we go make sure that oil is in there good. Oh, that's gonna make a good pan of cornbread. It'll be good with that soup in a little bit. So we're not gonna put it in quite yet, so we'll be back in just a minute. All right, now we're gonna get ready to cook our chicken tenders. So I've got my pan here. I'm gonna put the oil in it, and see about how much that is. It's well covered. I'm gonna cut that eye on. Now I don't cook it on very high, because if you do, by the time you get to the end, you've got all these little burning things in the bottom. So here's how we go get our chicken ready. All right, this is whole cultured buttermilk. All right, now we're not gonna drown these things in buttermilk. What we're gonna do is just put enough on there. All right, let's see if that's enough. We just want to coat them with the buttermilk. So just get your hands in there and just turn them around. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to salt and pepper those so we don't have to salt each one. So take a good bit of salt for that many. All right, now we're going to get us a little bit of pepper here. All right, we're going to try to do this without sneezing. Okay. Okay. Now, and then just turn them real good so that they all get a little bit of salt and pepper on them. So that okay, now I'm going to pour off this excess buttermilk. Okay, now then, what we're going to add is self-rising flour. Self-rising. I've got it right here. So I just put that right in my bowl. Put plenty of it because we're going to cook all of the chicken. And I just go ahead and toss all of it, get all of it ready, so that when I'm ready to fry it, all of it's already coated. We don't have to keep dragging it through the flour. Let's see, wait a minute, I'm gonna add a little bit more. Got to wash my hand here. Okay. So we'll add at least another scoop to that. Okay, now that's ready. As soon as that oil gets hot over there, we'll start frying those chicken tenders. But now we're going to put our cornbread in the oven. I bake that on 390 degrees. That seems a little bit high, but actually the bag says to cook it on 415. But that's a little bit hot for my oven, and everybody kind of knows their own oven and how it cooks. All right, let's see how our soup is coming. Okay, the soup is coming to a boil now. All right, while we were gone, I tasted this soup. It wasn't salty enough, and I also felt like I needed to add another can of beef broth to it, just for the flavor. So I'm gonna cut it down now, because it's beginning to stick just a little bit on the bottom. And this needs to cook, once it comes to a boil, it needs to cook about 30 minutes. And so that's gonna work out perfect. We go eat about 6:15 or 6:30, and it's about 10 minutes till 6. Now that's all ready. So we'll be back in a minute and we go cook the chicken. We've been gone just a few minutes, and our soup has come to a boil now. And so we are ready to start frying our chicken fingers. And the way you tell if your grease is ready, see how that really sizzles there? So it's ready. All right, just lay our chicken in there. And this chicken, it won't take very long to cook. Be careful, don't burn your hands. Just kind of drop it in there. Make sure it's well coated with flour, because that's what makes your crust. Okay, we'll let that cook a few minutes, and then I'll show you when we get ready to turn it. Okay, so we're getting ready to turn our chicken here. All right, it's cooked about 2 minutes on that side. So we're going to turn it all over here, I think. Well, that one won't turn. All right, here we go. Turn him over. Turn that one over. Get this one turned over. Turn this over. I don't know what's wrong with that one right there. Okay, so we're going to continue now to let that cook. Probably, it doesn't take but about a total of 4 to 5 minutes for these chickens. And by the way, I cut up my own chicken tenders. I buy the boneless and skinless breast, and then I cut them up myself. Sometimes when you buy the ones that are already prepared, they're a little bit thin. And I like them a little bit meatier, and not only that, they're less expensive. This whole container of chicken that I bought and I cut up myself was $9 And so that would be a lot cheaper than buying, say, 4 to 5 packages of the chicken tenders already cut up. So anything you can do to save a little bit of money helps. And not only that, I like this because now look at this. Now see how thick that chicken tender is right there. And a lot of them that you get already cut in the store, they're really very thin. And so these just make better chicken tenders, and so I cut them up myself. And for these, I use the chicken breast. So we're going to let them cook here another minute or so. That one looks like it's about ready. See, it's smaller now. What I do is I take them up on paper towels because they need to drain very good. See, that one is ready. That one ready. That one that didn't want to cooperate, it's ready. All of these. I'm going to let that one fry just another minute or two. But now see, my stove right now is on what you would say would be 6. And that is plenty hot enough for these to fry without getting your crumbs in the bottom of your pan really almost burned. Okay, that one's ready. And see, even that is a nice plate of chicken tenders. So we've got plenty tonight. We'll go keep on cooking some. Okay, we're going to take this cornbread out of the oven. It's been in here about 25 minutes. Now, y'all know how I love butter. And ordinarily, I would have 1 stick of butter already melted and just pour right over the top of that. But I'm not going to do that tonight because we're going to be eating it with soup and I don't want everybody to complain. So when you're eating just plain cornbread, it is wonderful with butter on it. All right, we're ready to serve this now. We've got all the chicken fried, we've got all of the cornbread ready, and we got a big old bowl of homemade soup here. Now what I did want to show you, look how much chicken that is for less than $10. That is a lot of chicken. We've got a lot of taste testers here tonight, so they should be happy. And I wanted to show you this grease. Now see, the grease is not burned at all. And that's because I kept it on a low temperature. Your chicken fries slower, but it fries nice and crisp, just like most people like it. So we are getting ready to eat tonight, and so y'all have a good evening, and everybody shine for Jesus.